Listen and cut through deluded knowing as helping. This is not about listening and grasping something from it. The Buddhas have been given the enlightenment to us. This is not to grasp for the knowing. Ending is not to be grasped. Ending is to be given for samsara. So this is not about taking something into oneself. Each time that there is the reminders, they are to be given for samsara. Therefore, use the reminders, the words, everything more often. The mighty force will be out, scattered out. The Buddhas given the enlightenment to help samsara. This is not to take in for oneself, and ending is not to take in for oneself. A tiny bit of grasping will not be giving ending. Grasping is not going to give ending. Each reminder, to grasp for it even a tiny bit, there is no cutting, there is no ending. Reminders cut through themselves. They don't grasp for themselves. Therefore, it becomes blossoming, discarding itself. But if the reminders are stuck with themselves, cutting just stuck with itself, it will be limited to just blossoming, but not discarding itself. That is not natural. Flowers, each flower blossom out and discard itself. It's impossible to not be like that. The cause is the only thing. The grasping is the cause. Looking, seeing and knowing, grasping for seeing, looking and knowing. Disengaging, grasping for disengaging. There is a limitation. This is a delay because it is stuck right there. Drowning, being sinking and maintaining. Therefore, reminders have to cut through themselves constantly. Reminders purifying themselves constantly. Use the word everything. Think of it. Then the surrounding will be unwound all the same, simultaneously, accordingly. Wherever there are the arahants, the enlightened ones, the surroundings will be purified and extinct all the same, accordingly. The essence is like that, naturally. This is called compassion, great compassion, blessing. When using the reminders that doesn't grasp for themselves, cut through themselves. It is not about oneself that is unwound, but the surroundings, anyone who is nearby will be unwound all the same. This is beyond wishes to help anyone, because that is still gross. This is purification without traces, instantly purifying without traces, helping through unwinding for one another. This is blessing in the way of giving ending, great compassion in the way of giving. This is not education or practicing, because that is still circling. Listen to something that gives ending towards the listening itself. Just listening. Then it will happen accordingly. Whatever that one listens to, it will be according to that. If you listen to something that is fabricated, you will fabricate accordingly. If you listen to something that is nonsense, you will be deluded to the nonsense accordingly. Whether it is nonsense or not, it's still the arising. Listen to something that is funny, you will feel funny all the same. That is still circling. But if you listening to something that gives ending, then ending is there. It cannot be otherwise, because there is cutting through in the listening accordingly. It cannot be otherwise. Therefore, the essence of the cutting deluded knowing with one sentence is accordingly. There is no cutting for the second, the third. Cutting is even before the cutting itself. That's why you must listen. That which has nothing to do with engaging or disengaging, there is no need to cut through anything. This is cutting even before cutting itself. Nothing to do with engaging or disengaging. It will give ending to the attempt to cut or not cutting. It will give ending to this act. The attempt to cut or not cutting is also practicing. But whatever that is given here is giving ending. That which is not about anything within engaging or disengaging. It gives ending to the act of cutting or not cutting. Giving ending to. Therefore, use these reminders to help end for samsara. The reminders to help end for samsara. Normally, we just know everything all over, and samsara will follow accordingly. It's linking to one another naturally. If they are knowing and fabricating, samsara is the same. They think and fabricate. It is linking. All the waves of thoughts is linking to one another in the whole samsara. Is collective. Therefore, use the reminders that help cut through with samsara. Then it will turn into the power of cutting through for one another. Instead of fabricating to help with fabrication of the mind. Help through cutting instead. Natural cutting. Blessing beings is not difficult. Helping to give ending for samsara is not difficult. The difficulty is to add more, to fabricate more, to encourage misleading. That is more difficult because they are behaviors. It is difficult like that because that is the act of suffering. Therefore, with one reminder, giving ending as such right away. Everything is from not involved within the non-involvement itself. From disengaging itself. That is giving ending within that right there. Use the reminders to help cut through for samsara constantly. This mighty force will help soften down accordingly. Blessed in the way that no one is realizing it, that they are blessed. Without invitation to bless. That is the true great compassion. Blessing in the way that samsara is unrealized. That there is someone who is helping towards ending, helping through, cutting through for them. All the work and tasks in the form of karma will slowly, gradually end it by itself because the essence of the reminders of cutting for samsara and oneself karma of both will be ended and softened down naturally. All the karma and karmic difficulties in the work, in the task will be softened down naturally. It will not be about anything within karma or karmic difficulties. In the past, you give significance to the karma and karmic difficulties. That is topping up karma and karmic difficulties, significance and meanings in it. There is no essence of helping cutting through the deluded knowing. When karma emerging, there is always giving significance to the karmic difficulties, adding on top of itself. This is not about dying and that's it. Because when you are born again, it will emerging again. The form of karmic difficulties will again coming back. No matter how many times you are dying, it's endless. The body is just transformed, but the mind is still there and it's destined by karma. But the essence of cutting deluded knowing It will dissolve all the cycle of birth and death and rebirth. Wherever you are, help cut through, make a conclusion through the reminders from disengaging itself, cut through to help one another wherever you are. Walking along the road, sitting in the cafe, eyes, ears, listening, looking, cut through deluded knowing simultaneously. Cut through the cycle of circling from the eyes, ears, from the disengaging itself, not involved within the non-involvement itself. This will cut off the circling within everything. Don't sit and meditate and drown in it, sink in it. It's a delay because it is sinking in itself. It will be a delay. It's not about anything. No, it's not even no itself. That which has nothing to do with yes or no. Unwinding, discarding, unwinding itself. When you think of it, it will be unwinding, discarding itself. If you maintain the knowing, it will sink in itself. There is no unwinding from it. It will sink in itself. Stillness is the same. Anicca, the ever changes. There is no such a thing as stillness or indifference. But when you practice stillness and indifference, you will pay back as naka, sinking in knowing, sinking in stillness and indifference. Everything is ever changes, subjected to change. Like knowing is the same. If you drown in it, you will be delayed. Because there is attachment to knowing, there is no cutting. The knowing is attaching. No cutting to knowing. There is no conclusion to cut through deluded knowing. It's attachment to knowing. Being still in the knowing, that is sinking in the knowing for too long. There is no cutting. And many misunderstood it as nirod, as extinction. Actually, it's just a dropping temporarily. Stillness, meditative absorption. It is the desire and delusive attachments within itself. This is the desire that is blocking itself. There is no unwinding from the unwinding itself. Therefore, it's not extinction or nirod. The true extinction is not at the extinction. It's not anything at all. There is just no desire in there. But the word extinction is misleading. So it's not about extinction or not extinction. Otherwise, to use this term, it can create misunderstanding. That which has nothing to do with extinction or not, that which has nothing to do with being still or not, indifferent or not, that which has nothing to do with involvement or non-involvement. This is unwinding, discarding the unwinding. Everyone has practiced it. Therefore, there's a habit of secretly fall into stillness, dropping into indifference, stillness, because one has practiced from before. This is realms of existence. Beware that which is not about, this isn't it itself. It isn't it, it's not, it isn't it itself. Therefore, everyone will help cut through deluded knowing for samsara onwards. That's the great compassion. There is no difficulty and complication at all. In the Buddha time, they also listening and ending accordingly, not practicing. While listening is done, understanding, cut through the understanding itself right away. This is instantaneity. Listening and cutting through instantaneously. Understanding cut through the understanding itself right there. Both understanding and cut through itself and non-attachment right there within itself. That which has nothing to do with engaging or disengaging. This is listening that is beyond understanding itself. Both engaging or disengaging proceeding simultaneously, beyond understanding, cut through directly, discarding directly. That's why it's beyond understanding. While listening there is understanding, but there is cutting at the same time. Therefore it's beyond understanding. Both understanding and listening is simultaneous. This is the system of instantaneity. Vajra. There are only some eras that we can encounter like this. It's not in every era. There's a karmic payback with the delusion in practices. Practicing the knowing, practicing the seeing. Sinking in seeing and knowing on and on. Sinking in stillness and indifference. There is only just karma overlaying Dharma. Just like grasping from the practicing. That is paying back of karma. Karma in Dharma. Practicing for achievement. Practicing for attainment. This is like a task, like work. Just doing and doing. Just like payback of karma. Paying back of karma. On and on. When you do a task and just grasping from it, how can there be a liberation in itself? Is there any liberation in it? No. It will only become more and more karmic difficulties. The same as practices for attainments, there will be only more karma, no liberation in itself. Until it is ended, it is over. Ending the practice, when ending all the grasping, liberation will be there, right there at the time of when it's ending the practices.